This is Points of Clarity, the CMO interview series from Clear M&C Saatchi. Each interview covers one topic and in just 3 short questions aims to deliver total clarity. We'll be starting shortly, so do enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to Points of Clarity, the CMO interview series from Clear M&C Saatchi. My name is Geraint Jones, and I'm Clear's Global Marketing Director. Broadcast live on Zoom and LinkedIn, each interview covers one topic, features 2 speakers, and in just 3 short questions aims to deliver total clarity. In each episode, I'll be joined by a senior marketing leader to discuss how they manage the often chaotic world of modern marketing, and we'll do it in 15-20 minutes, or thereabouts. This week, I'm interviewing Renata Policicio from ESPN. Welcome to the show, Renata.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
We'll be chatting through the challenge of empowering marketers to manage the chaos of modern marketing today, and especially in 2020, but also as we look beyond the current crises. Renata leads the Research and Insights Group for ESPN's Global Markets, and based in New York, she leads the Research and Analytics International team, responsible for providing strategic and actionable guidance, which I'm sure we'll hear more about, to advance ESPN's brand, understanding of the sports landscape, and drive growth in ESPN's revenue-generating business units in more than 30 different countries. She's a multicultural professional with over 20 years of experience at major Fortune 500 companies such as Disney, ESPN, Warner Media, Microsoft, and a number of advertising agencies. So now I've built you up, Renata, let's get down to business. I want to talk to you first about recipes. We've all been cooking more at home during the pandemic. So what's your recipe for being an effective marketer in 2020? And has great insight become an even more important ingredient in that recipe?
That's a great question. And I think the recipe has been evolving, just like the recipes that we have been cooking at home. But if I had to name 3 main ingredients, I would say they are empathy, something that we found out very early in the pandemic. Consumer centricity, of course, I would never not mention insights and how important the consumer is, and flexibility. Those 3 main ingredients, I would say. As I mentioned, we started with empathy really from the beginning. We understand that empathy builds brand trust. And in a moment like this, that is tough for everyone in so many different ways, brand trust is imperative. And brand trust builds connection, builds brand engagement, builds consumption. So that was something that we saw very early in the beginning. I don't know if you remember, we very early in the pandemic, in the beginning of April, we understood that we were in a tough situation in terms of programming. We didn't have live sports to air all of a sudden, and I'll get to that in a minute. But our message to fans was, okay, we understand that you miss sports. Believe us, we miss it too. So we went with the campaign that just said, we miss it too. We understand you, and because we miss it too. So empathy for me, the first ingredient of the recipe. The second one, fan centricity, consumer centricity. I think it's more important than ever. You mentioned whether we like it or not, insights really thrive in uncertain times, right? We try to bring and provide the light to really guide the business in uncertain times and really help the business navigate and see the opportunities in the crisis, right? So I read from many companies that various business are spending record numbers in research. Not our case, but we are working more than ever to really try to give the company that light, right? Really try to help them navigating and seeing the opportunities.
Because you can only really empathize with people if you understand what's driving them, right?
That's for me, if you don't understand who your consumers, as we call them, fans are, it's very hard to create genuine empathy, right? Because you may try, but it may sound artificial, it may sound unauthentic. So absolutely, I think insights and consumer centricity is key for that. And also key for my third ingredient is really how important it is for many brands, for us, being agile, being flexible with everything, with your product, with your marketing, with your insights, right? So this story is a story I'll never forget. It was March 12th when live sports were put on hold totally. All the leagues, the NBA at the time was the first one that canceled the game. And on March 12th, we really realized, okay, we have to figure out what we're going to put in air. We don't have any live sports anymore. Our grid just got destroyed.
Yeah, I remember it well. It was a huge pain as a fan.
It was, we really had to put all the heads together, like, okay, what are we going to show? What are we going to put on air? So I want to say the first probably 5 to 7 days were a bit of panic, whatever we can do to have a channel on air. So we went with classic games and with classic events and more scripted or non-live programming that we had. And then probably after the first week, now that we that we are at least swimming in the sea, let's be more strategic and let's think how we can really cater to fans in this moment, right? So but the very first week showed us the importance of being flexible, the importance of being agile in everything, in marketing, in product, in our case, in programming, because it has to come from that understanding of consumer and building empathy in a moment when you have very limited resources in everything you look at.
And now I guess you're in a position where, like, we're still there. We're still in a position where, yes, live sport has come back in a format, but it's a format that we're all really unfamiliar with. And for you guys, I guess, the success of the NBA bubble and other bits and pieces, but that's in itself thrown up some new insights, right? It's thrown up some new understandings of how fans really want to engage with, and it's changed the marketing recipe, to go back to the question, I guess.
No, absolutely. The NBA bubble is a good example, but that applies to every league you can think of. The MLS was in a bubble in Orlando as well, but let's take the NBA as an example. We knew it was going to feel different to fans, right? We knew it. We were not blindsided by no. Fans will not even feel the difference. Yeah, they do. So the mission between us and the NBA was to create an experience that was unique, that was special. We understand it's not going to be normal. We understand it's not going to feel the same. So let's use that opportunity to create something really special, really unique that fans can appreciate because it's a special and unique moment. So just to give you a couple of examples, there were cameras in places that we would never have cameras at. There were more than 30 microphones under the court to really capture not only the usual sounds, but players talking and really the sound of the ball, the squeaking, all of that. So we partner with the NBA first, of course, to offer a safe environment for the game to be played for athletes and staff and all of that. But beyond that, a lot of the investment, I think most fans don't even realize that most of the investment on the NBA bubble was not the bubble itself. It was the technology that happened, that was put in place to really create that unique experience. The artificial crowd noise that came from all the different teams. So the crowd noise was not a generic one. It was really recorded for each of the teams that were playing, and the crowd noise was piped in depending on who was playing. So all the technology that was by far the biggest investment done by the NBA and the partners like ESPN.
So is the recipe then has it become more experience focused in your mind? Because I think for a lot of marketers before this, experience was definitely a part of a mix, but it wasn't the core of the challenge.
I think it was experience for sure. And in our case, and I think in the case of many industries and brands, how you help your consumers or our fans to navigate the situation,
Yeah.
right? You mentioned how crazy the calendar, sports calendar is today. A big mission that we have now is how we help fans navigate so much that's going on. And we know it's not only about sports, it's one layer on top of the other. So you have a very tense and agitated political, scenario here in the US. Of course, you have the pandemic still going on. You have a big social justice movement. So on top of a crazy crowded sports calendar, you have all these other distractions or topics that are really uh, catching the attention of everyone, not only sports fans, everyone. So how we create this special experience and how we help them navigating such a complex time and on the sports world such a crowded calendar, because if you're a sports fan you want to know what's going on in all the major leagues. So how do we help you doing that?
That cut through is so hard to come by in 2020. I mean, it is hard for people in these roles in marketing to get to that point where they're listened to, where they have even a moment's share of people's attention. So let's get to that. Let's get to that rhythms question. All of our rhythms have been, hugely disrupted by the crisis. I mean, some of my behaviors, as simple as commuting, is just no longer a thing. And I used to watch bits and pieces of sport to catch up on stuff on my commute. How can we identify the things that are going to stick around for the long term? The changes that you think are going to stay with us. Is it too early to tell that? And if it is too early, how do we help consumers to reestablish some of those more familiar habits as we get into 21 and beyond?
That's I think the hardest mission for every insight or marketing professional now is the $1,000,000 question, right? How much of all of that is going to stick, and and again, how we help consumers really navigating that. Getting outside of the media and sports industry for a second, I think we can see some trends that I think by now it's safe to say that will stick in a way or the other. Things like online grocery shopping, shop streaming, that is really the mix between streaming and shopping. That conflict between that convenience and sustainability. What I mentioned, the need of empathy and trust for brands, and the discussions around all of that. I think they will stick. I think they will be with us for the long term. Going to media and entertainment, the growth of streaming services. Disney Plus got to the number of subscribers that the company forecasted for 5 years, 4 years from now, in less than a year, actually. So the growth of streaming service really reshaping how people consume content. That will stick. And we will have the responsibility to help fans, to help consumers navigating all the offers, all the options. And I think media in general, from linear TV to streaming, we have the responsibility to really curate and help them navigating what they need to know. Another trend that I think will stick is we are seeing a change in the way entertainment and media companies are releasing big movies and big titles. Disney released Mulan on Disney Plus exclusively, really skipping the movie window, the theater window. Disney will launch another title like that. I don't know if you know, it's called Soul from Pixar. It was supposed to be released on theaters this year and is going direct to Disney Plus, just like Mulan. So that I think will stick. I'm not saying it's the death of movie theaters, but I think studios will rethink how they release titles. There was just a kind of autopilot that all the big titles went to movie theaters first, and after 3 months to home video, and then you go. And I think it made companies like Disney and big studios to rethink that. And the big question is how can brands help fans and consumers navigate this new world? I think it's not the new normal, it's the new world now and in the future.
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting to me because you see these huge changes and increased number of different access points to the content, the events, the sports, the food, the drink, everything that we consume in one way or another. There's been a mushrooming of different ways in which to get access to that because of the controls and the strictures of the pandemic. I think there's a reckoning coming, right? Which is at some point there's going to be another rebalance back. I mean, it won't be 100%. We won't go back to the way it was before. But if that marketing budgets are anything like mine, marketers are going to have to prioritize, right? We're going to have to get to a point where we say we can't throw the same amount of money at this now, and we have to make some big bets about the extent to which some of the previous things we invested in, we have to go back and invest in again. And so I think the next 2 years probably are going to be some of the most interesting times to be marketers, because you're going to have to really rely on your insights. You're going to have to work out how to reestablish certain behaviors and which ones are the right ones to reestablish in your category. And then in addition, you're going to have to work out how to really balance up your P&L, your budget properly. We're going to have to be really, really commercial. And I think that's it's exciting. It's also kind of intimidating, I think, for some people in this game. I mean, how are you finding it in terms of the rhythms internally? Let's talk about the rhythms that you need to reestablish within ESPN.
Yeah, and I think the big challenge is what you said, how you keep the business healthy, right? How you take care of the P&L in a way that makes sense, not only now, but in the short term. Because we talk a lot about strategy, we talk a lot about being flexible and adapting to what viewers want, but how do we make it in a healthy way? The good news from an insights perspective at ESPN is that we have never worked so hard. We have never, been so top of mind at the company. We had to adapt and be more agile than ever. We have the luxury of having ratings that really tell us the day after, or even less than 24 hours after, what is working and what's not, depending on the market. But we were asked to do more, but with less. And I think some industries and some companies, as I mentioned, probably have a different scenario, but we are really trying to be as nimble as possible at ESPN and understanding how we can, again, take care of the P&L, take care of the business, and being as healthy as we can. But it is a challenge, and I agree with you. At least for the next couple of years, I think there will be a big challenge. And I also agree that the consumer, the fan insights should be really in the middle of all of it. What is essential? What is must have? What is good to have? How can we balance expenses, costs, and revenues in a time like that? You think about Disney parks, and that's the first example that comes to mind, right? Disney parks getting back to serving the consumer, because we heard that they missed the parks, they missed that experience. Happy to say, and there was a lot of anxiety in July when the parks in Orlando reopened, and happy to say that there was no outbreak, there was no big problem or safety concern tied to that. But at the same time, the parks are operating at 25% capacity. Is that even healthy to keep doing, right? Yeah. So that's a challenge and a discussion that I agree with you. The next couple of years will bring to us.
Yeah, it's that whole theme of looking for that safe harbor, doing the right thing at the right time for the brands that we care about. And I think I'd love to ask you about what you've learned this year about how insights and marketing can work together more closely to pinpoint the right strategies to back in any crisis, not just the one we've been facing today, because I guess that's a big learning to take from this.
I think the first thing that we learned very quick. Remember, in March, we didn't even have a lot to show on air. So the first thing that we heard from marketing was everything we do now is marketing. It's not only what you classically call marketing. Everything we do now communicates with fans and tell fans that we care. So it was really about everything we do is marketing. We really care about you. We feel what you're feeling. So that was the very first one. And the second one, as I mentioned, we have never been so busy, and we never saw so much demand, even from the higher ups, from the higher management at ESPN, which is great. I think there is now more than never a strong belief that fans and consumers will show us what to do next. This week, we got an email from our CEO talking about the new organization and how Disney is really reorging. And I loved when I read a line where he said, "Fans and consumers will show us what to do next." So that coming from our CEO at Disney, it really means a lot. I think this pandemic really showed that those people who still believed I know what the consumer wants, and that doesn't change. We don't really have to track or constantly try to understand what fans want because we know it all. Those naysayers, I think they realized very quickly that they were wrong all the way,
Yeah.
and that the health of the business really depended on understanding how consumers would react to this new crazy moment in time, and now how they will adapt and how we can help them navigate in that new world. So I think it was two main simple but two main things to understand that everything that we do is marketing now. We have challenging marketing budgets this year because of everything that we just said. So everything that we do is marketing. Everything that we do should tell fans that we care. And the second one, hey, fans should be the ones.
Oh, I think we lost Renata there just
Content.
briefly. Hopefully she comes. Oh, here we are. You're back. You're back. You just fell away as you were making point two. If you wouldn't mind just repeating point two, that'd be great.
Oh, of course. No. So the point two is really was really the company believing more than ever that fans will show us the way. Fans will show us what to do next, whether it's in terms of what platform they want to consume content on, what kind of content they want to consume, if they want to get back to parks or not, or to movie theaters or not. So really that discipline of having the fan and the consumer guiding us is stronger than ever.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point. I agree with it to the most extent. My only concern with it is that it's the faster horse thing, right? You know, people would have never told you that they wanted a car because they'd have said, I would just want a faster horse. And I think the challenge with this pandemic is that we'll all say we need to be guided by where the consumers are shopping for us now, and we need to navigate with them and help them navigate. And there is that two-way street that I really love how you've set this up today, where you've talked about, you know, the need to help fans navigate this mushrooming of different options, whilst at the same time listening to what they actually want and need. I guess my final kind of follow-up to your point is, you know, in your mind, is there a point at which listening to fans and expecting how fans are going to guide the business, are you also going to need at some point to take some stands, insight driven, absolutely, but some stands about what we think we think they might need in the future that they don't know they know yet?
I think you hit a fantastic point. In a lot of topics, in a lot of points, consumers don't know what they want. So yeah, it's us helping them navigating and really understanding what they need. I'll give you a great example is the whole Black Lives Matter and social justice movement here in the US. It was something that, you know, broke on top of a pandemic and probably in the height of the pandemic. So we worked very close to fans at that time. We still are, but at that time, how do you want us to cover that? How we want to be helping you understanding what that movement is. We understand there is a big overlap, an intersection more than overlap between sports and social justice. But how do you want us to cover that? We understand that sometimes for a lot of fans, the most avid fans, sports is a way to get out of all that, right? To really find relief of all this anxiety. But at the same time, we got to cover. So we are still talking to fans, but at that time, it was a lot of let us help you understand what you need and how you want to consume that kind of content or that kind of news that was happening every day. And we still feel that, but there was a moment in the pandemic that I mentioned flexibility. We felt that every day there was something new, every day. Every day there was a cancellation. Every day there was something new that made us have to adapt so quick. So absolutely, it's not only helping them navigating, but helping them even defining what they want to consume, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a lovely way to finish. It's been an absolutely fascinating chat. And
my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. For everybody who's tuned in at the moment, Points of Clarity continues on Friday, 6th of November at the earlier time of 1:15 p.m. UK time and 8:15 a.m. US time. So get your wheat crunchies and sit down with a coffee and listen to us talk to Pete Markey, who is the CMO at TSB, the big UK high street bank. Pete is a leader in the financial services space. And as you can imagine, he's also had quite the interesting 2020. And he and I will be discussing the broader shape of chaos in modern marketing, talking about the different things that CMOs need to be able to spin in terms of the different plates they need to manage to make sure that they do their job to the very best of their ability, and how they manage their teams in a pandemic to achieve that. So you can sign up at the link that I will post up on LinkedIn in the next couple of days, but please share all of this, including this lovely video that we've made with Renata today, with your friends, colleagues, and connections. Look out for more announcements on interviewees for Series 1 in the coming weeks, and thanks so much for coming along. See you next week, and thank you so much for your time today.